Hello, I'm Jen Moore, Music of the Baroque's program annotator, and welcome to the 2024 edition of Baroque Notes, our series of virtual pre-concert talks. In this installment, I'll be discussing Mullova Plays Bach, featuring not one, but two guest artists, conductor Jonathan Cohen and violinist Viktoria Mullova. Jonathan Cohen was recently named artistic director of Boston's Handel and Haydn Society, one of the youngest conductors to hold the post since it was founded in 1815. Cohen will be joined by the legendary violinist Viktoria Mullova, who burst onto the scene several decades ago through a series of remarkable events. She won the Sibelius competition in 1980 when she was 20. The gold medal at the Tchaikovsky competition in 1982 when she was 22. And then in 1983, she defected from what was then the Soviet Union to the United States.
Washington, July the 9th, 1983. The start of a new life for two defectors from the Soviet Union.
3, 2, 1. And here she is, 23-year-old Viktoria Mullova. She's the youngest Soviet defector yet.
A week ago, a Finnish taxi slipped across the border into northern Sweden. Huddled in the back, Soviet conductor Vakhtang Jordania and a 23-year-old girl violinist Viktoria Mullova. They'd been planning their escape for 2 years.
Where in Washington?
Their chance to defect came during a concert tour of Finland. Leaving her state-owned Stradivarius in the hotel, Viktoria and Vakhtang had shaken off their KGB minder and arrived without any money in Stockholm, where they sought political asylum at the US Embassy. They're receiving help from an emigre organization, and they have a powerful ally in the exiled cellist and conductor Mstislav Rostropovich.
In a 2012 biography, Mullova shares that part of her defection was learning to love playing music. She had performed to get out of her situation, which was, as she says, the wrong reason to perform. She now loves what she does, and one of her primary passions is the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. Here's a clip of her performing the famous Chaconne from Bach's Partita No. 2 in D minor at the 2010 Holland Festival. Mullova uses every resource she has to bring out the different voices in Bach's writing for what is, in essence, a single-voiced instrument. I can't wait to meet her, even though she's sort of made me feel like I should keep my violin in my closet. And now I'll talk a little more about the concert repertoire. This could easily have been the ring cycle of Baroque notes, seriously, and deciding how to narrow my focus was honestly a little daunting. The repertoire Jonathan Cohen has chosen touches on many of the things that make the Baroque era unique. Lully was one of the pioneers of French Baroque opera. The way music functioned at the court of Louis XIV is a topic unto itself, and as a court musician, Lully had a pretty interesting life. In Bach's concertos, there's an opportunity to talk about the influence of Vivaldi on Bach and the development of the instrumental concerto in the 18th century and beyond. Bach's Art of the Fugue is a veritable playground. Literally, it was his playground for formal counterpoint technique. Rameau basically invented the idea of modern tonality in his revolutionary Traité de l'harmonie, which essentially translates as harmony treatise. I can't help feeling like he couldn't have done a little bit better than that. And Rameau also pushed French opera beyond what Lully had done, something that had not quite happened in the decades between Lully's death in 1687 and Rameau's first opera in 1733. It's totally overwhelming. So I will try to limit it to a few interesting facts about each of the composers or works on the program, starting with Lully. Lully was one of the most accomplished figures in the French Baroque. He was actually Italian, born Giovanni Battista, and restyled himself as Jean Baptiste, probably a good move, when he came to Paris in 1646. In 1653, he began working as an instrumental composer and dancer at the court of Louis XIV. As I mentioned, music at the court of the Sun King is a topic unto itself. But if there's one thing people tend to remember about Lully, it's how he died. Well, the more convenient baton did not come into vogue until the 19th century. Conductors in Lully's time used a heavy staff to beat time. During a performance of his Te Deum, composed to commemorate Louis XIV's recovery from surgery, Lully speared himself in the foot and subsequently died of gangrene. I guess he was very stubborn and wouldn't go to the doctor, even though everybody told him to. He probably should have listened to them. In 1661, in happier times, Lully started writing comédie ballet with the playwright Molière. The duo produced their most famous collaboration in 1670, the comédie ballet Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme, or The Would-Be Gentleman. The plot details the misguided efforts of the middle-class merchant Monsieur Jourdain, who wants to be a nobleman. Jourdain hires tutors, styles himself in ridiculous clothing, and worst of all, tells his daughter she cannot marry her middle-class suitor. The would-be husband disguises himself as the son of the Grand Turk and holds a sham ceremony in which Jourdain is raised to the fake rank of Mamamouchi. Jourdain believes he's gotten what he wants and permits the marriage to proceed. This is based on an actual event. In 1669, Louis XIV welcomed Suleiman Aga, an emissary of the Ottoman, to his court, but the visitor, wearing only a wool coat, mortally offended the lavishly dressed king. The parallel drawn between the socially climbing Jourdain and the visitor, ignorant of courtly protocol, is clear. Here is one of the selections the orchestra will perform from Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme, the March for the Ceremony of the Turks. There is a long-standing connection between Turkish music and French military music, especially in the use of percussion and oboes. In this march, Lully demonstrates mastery of the French musical tradition and possibly preserves the Sun King's ego in the favorable allusion to the event at court. This is a recent performance featuring Klaus Makala conducting the Oslo Philharmonic with a staff and thankfully not hitting himself in the foot. Jean-Philippe Rameau composed his first opera when he was 50, and it opened a schism between Lully and Rameau fans. Lully's defenders found Rameau's music too excessive, his harmonies too unusual and dissonant. But while Le Bourgeois Gentilhomme was written as courtly entertainment, Rameau's operas were written for what is now the Paris Opera. What you hear in Rameau's music is the drama of 18th century opera, the dynamic contrast, the willingness to break rules for the sake of bringing a story to life. And this is the aesthetic that triumphed. As Rameau put it, I have been a follower of the stage since I was 12 years old. I only began work on an opera when I was 50. I still didn't think I was capable. I tried my hand, I was lucky, I continued. Here's a little of the chaconne, or theme and variations, that closes Rameau's 1739 opera Dardanus. We are performing both of Johann Sebastian Bach's true violin concertos, the Concerto in A minor and the Concerto in E major, which were probably composed during his time in Curtin between 1717 and 1723 for their virtuoso violinist Joseph Spiess. I've talked about Viktoria Mullova, who will be the focal point of these works. So let's shift to the other piece by Bach in the program, the excerpts from the art of the fugue. In 1751, a year after Bach's death, a mysterious piece called Die Kunst der Fuge, the art of fugue, or as it's sometimes called, the art of the fugue, was published. Bach died before he completed the manuscript, and the printed edition was full of mistakes, so many questions remain. One is its intended instrumentation. Bach's keyboard music is written on two staffs. The pieces contained in the art of the fugue, however, are written on four staffs, and I've included examples here so you can see the difference, which makes it really easy to think of this collection as actually conceived for an ensemble. Although Bach probably did intend the collection for keyboard, the way he notated it makes it really easy to arrange for other groups of instruments, and that's what has happened over the centuries. So if you do a deep dive into YouTube like I did, you'll find all kinds of things to listen to, and it's a lot of fun. So I would encourage you to do that if you have not already. A fugue is essentially a piece of music written for multiple imitative parts that enter one after another and go through a process of development to form a complete piece. The first part that is heard alone is called the subject. The art of the fugue contains 14 fugues, all derived in some way from the subject or very opening melody that you hear in the first fugue. In the rest of the fugues, Bach plays games with this subject. In Contrapunctus 4, or the fourth counterpoint, Bach takes a subject and presents it in inversion. He turns it upside down. No discussion of the art of the fugue would be complete without mentioning pianist Glenn Gould, who is famous for his remarkable interpretations of Bach's keyboard music. play the seventh counterpoint, several things happen. The subject is played right side up and upside down at double speed and half speed, and is split between multiple parts at the same time. This animated graphical representation, with a performance by Accademia Strumentale Italiana, shows the complexity of the music beautifully, both literally and figuratively. To give you an idea of how influential the art of the fugue has been over the years, in 1998, the video game company Nintendo released a game called The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, in which the main character, Link, makes all kinds of things happen by playing certain melodies on his ocarina. So music is actually central to the game's mechanics. The composer of the game's soundtrack, Koji Kondo, is known for using short snippets of well-known classical works as the foundation for his music. Listen to one of Link's most powerful tunes, the Song of Time, which opens the door of time. The symbols that appear on the screen on the video I'm about to show you are actually the game controls that the player must use in order to play the tune on the virtual ocarina. There's so much to say about this program, and I could go on, but I will force myself to stop. And I hope what I've said thus far will help you enjoy Mullova Plays Bach, January 28th at the North Shore Center in Skokie, January 29th at the Harris Theater in downtown Chicago. Thank you so much.